The sun was setting, casting long, jagged shadows across the living room, but the coldness in the air didn't come from the evening breeze. "Get out of my house. Now," Marcus's voice echoed against the walls of the home we had spent 10 years building. I had just walked through the front door, still holding the paperwork from my medical checkup. My heart stopped when I saw them. Marcus was hunched over the mahogany dining table, signing a stack of legal documents. Standing beside him, her hand resting possessively on his shoulder, was Sarah. She was the colleague he had spent so many late nights with, the one he insisted was just a friend. "This house is no longer yours," Marcus said, his voice flat and devoid of the love that once lived there. "I've transferred everything to Sarah. She knows how to manage a life like this. You're just a burden." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. My eyes drifted to the corner of the room where our 7-year-old son, Leo, was standing. He was clutching his school backpack so tightly his knuckles were white. 2 years ago, I had walked away from my career as a senior nurse because Marcus convinced me that our family needed me at home. I gave him my career, my time, and my youth. Now, he was giving our home to a stranger. That night, the world became a very dark place. With only one small suitcase and Leo's hand in mine, we walked into the neon-lit uncertainty of the city. We spent the first few nights in a crowded bus terminal, huddled together for warmth. Then came the park benches and the corners of abandoned buildings. One evening, as the rain drummed against a piece of cardboard we were using for shelter, Leo looked at me. His cheeks were hollowed by hunger, but he forced a tiny, trembling smile. "Mom, don't be sad. I'm not even that hungry today. I'm a superhero, remember?" That smile hurt more than 1,000 of Marcus's insults. The next afternoon, I found a few coins at the bottom of my bag, just enough for one small bowl of hot broth. I sat Leo down on a curb, blowing on the spoon to cool it for him. Just as he opened his mouth, a loud thud sounded from across the street. An elderly man had collapsed. He lay motionless on the pavement while people in expensive suits stepped around him, too busy to notice. My instincts, buried under weeks of misery, surged back to life. "Leo, stay here," I shouted. I ran to a nearby 24-hour chemist. I pulled the last thing of value from my finger, my diamond wedding ring, and slammed it onto the counter. "Trade this for an emergency kit and cardiac stimulants. Now." The pharmacist stared, but he complied. I ran back and knelt in the dirt beside the stranger. His breathing was shallow, his pulse fading. I worked with a rhythmic, desperate focus, performing CPR and administering the stimulants until his eyes fluttered open. By the time the ambulance arrived, he was stable. He grabbed my hand, his grip surprisingly strong. "You didn't just save a stranger," he whispered. "You saved a soul." That night, Leo and I went to sleep with empty stomachs, but for the first time in weeks, my heart felt full. 3 days later, a black sedan pulled up to the terminal. A man in a tailored suit stepped out, holding a photograph. "Are you Elena?" he asked. I moved instinctively to shield Leo, but the man bowed his head respectfully. "The man you saved is my father. He is the founder of the city's largest medical network. He wants to settle his debt." Within a week, everything changed. I wasn't just given a job, I was given a life. The hospital board, hearing of my expertise and my sacrifice, appointed me as the head of nursing. Leo was enrolled in a top-tier school, and we moved into a small, sunlit apartment filled with books and laughter. Months passed. I was standing in the high-intensity ward one afternoon when a man was wheeled in on a gurney. He was followed by a woman who was screaming at the nurses about the cost of the room. It was Marcus. He looked terrible, his skin was sallow, his expensive suit was frayed, and his eyes were hollow. When he saw me in my crisp, white uniform, his jaw dropped. "Elena," he gasped, his voice cracking. "Please, you have to help. Sarah and we lost the house. The investments failed, she's sick, and I have nothing left." Sarah stood behind him, but she wasn't looking at him with love. She was checking her phone, looking annoyed by the inconvenience of his poverty. I looked at Marcus. I felt no anger, no desire for revenge. All I felt was a profound sense of peace. "I am a nurse, Marcus," I said, my voice steady and professional. "I save lives regardless of who they belong to. I will ensure she receives the best care." The surgery was successful. As Marcus waited in the hallway, I walked out to give him the update. He grabbed my hand, tears streaming down his face. "Elena, I made a mistake. I see that now. She only loved the money, and now that it's gone, she treats me like trash. Can we go home?" At that moment, Leo walked through the hospital doors to meet me for dinner. He had grown taller, his face glowing with health. He saw his father, paused for a single second, and then walked right past him as if he were a ghost. He jumped into my arms, laughing about a drawing he had made in class. I looked at Marcus one last time. I handed him the hospital discharge papers and a staggering bill. I saved her because it's my job, I said. But there is no home to go back to. You destroyed that a long time ago. Take care of your bills, Marcus. I hear Sarah is already asking about the value of your car. I turned my back on the shadows of my past and walked toward the light of the lobby with my son. Behind me, Marcus stood alone in the cold, sterile corridor, holding a debt he couldn't pay for a woman who didn't love him. If this story reminded you that your value isn't defined by those who hurt you, comment yes, and subscribe.